Hi, my friends. I'm so glad to be back in this space. Today, I want to talk about basically my relationship with God.
Welcome to the Pillow Talk podcast, except it's just Kai in bed yapping. The vibe here is that point of a sleepover where you're just lying in bed and things get really sad or funny or political. Anything extreme, that's the goal. So, enjoy.
Just lately, it's been on my mind a lot. I've been working a lot more in depth with my spirituality and with different spiritual practices and spiritual hygiene and all those little things. So it's been on my mind a lot more lately. And I basically want to touch on why I don't really associate with religion, but I do believe in God and all that. So yeah, I think this is something that should be spoken about more. That seems to be quite frowned upon. So I don't know, kind of want to start the conversation, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts as well, because I don't really get to talk that much about this with people. I've had this kind of conversation with like my closest friends, but obviously it's a very touchy subject. And let's just approach this with lots of love and let's get right into it, because I really do love this topic. And obviously talking about God and religion is always going to be such an intense topic and like really thought-provoking, and that's kind of the beauty of it, in my opinion. I guess let's start from the beginning, right? I was raised Catholic, so kind of forced into it, as most people are. I think you're raised into a family, and obviously those people believe that their religion is the only way for you to be saved and for you to live like an amazing life, and then you get eternal life after death and all that stuff. So then, they obviously want their children to believe the same thing so that they can also be saved. And it comes from a place of good intentions, and I'm very aware of that. But nonetheless, I was kind of forced into it. It's not like I chose, it's not like I got to look at all the different options or whatever. I went to Sunday school every single Sunday since grade R until grade 10. So I was very familiar with the Bible, and especially when I was young, I used to take everything so literally in the Bible, and it never made sense to me. I was always that child that was like, how is Jesus in all of our hearts? That doesn't make sense. Because I would literally imagine this little man in our heart, like I would literally take everything literally. Like I'm taking it as this is the word of God. This is literally what he said. And this is exactly what happened. All the stories, they're exactly what happened. And like a lot of people do believe that still. And that's not to say that that's not true. That could definitely be true. But it didn't resonate with me. And so it kind of pushed me away from it, But yeah, like I say, in all of this, it's all about beliefs, right? So we can't actually prove whether any of it is true or not. And so whatever I'm saying in this episode is obviously not what I think is the absolute truth and whatever. But, it's what sits right with me, and it's what has helped me strengthen my relationship. But I will get to that. I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself. It is just, a topic that makes me a little bit scared to push buttons with people, because, I never want to sound like I'm saying that what I'm saying is the absolute truth or whatever. It's a conversation I'm starting. So yeah, that's how my relationship with God started. And it was still like very sweet, I loved Jesus very much, and I followed the religion very meticulously. I really hope you guys can't hear the noises in the back of this, but if you can, I'm really sorry. I don't have proper microphones at the moment, so I'm working with what I've got. You'll also notice that this isn't a video like I usually do. Usually I'm recording myself, but just trust, I am lying in bed. This is still sleepover vibes, okay? Yeah, sorry. I'm just working with what I've got at the moment. Things are getting a bit hectic for me. I can also see myself losing a bit of the grip on my schedule for the podcast. I still really feel the need to communicate these things with you guys and to have these conversations, so I'm continuing. I'm not going to wait until the perfect situation arrives. I'm just going to continue with what I've got, and I hope that's okay with you guys. This whole thing is just an experiment for me. I'm just seeing what fits right with me. So yeah, we're going to be playing around with it a lot. But back to the conversation. Something that never really sat right with me with religion, specifically Christianity, but it happens actually worse in some others, but anyway, is the way the woman was always like vilified. Most religions say that women don't have any like spiritual connections, and women need to be living for men. Part of the reason why women can't be priests, and just a whole lot of things. And obviously that never sat right with me. That women don't have these spiritual connections. What I mean by that is like a connection to God, a way for us to receive spiritual messages. Because we literally have this direct connection to source. We give birth to life. And if that wasn't obvious enough, the feminine energy is intuitive. But if you want to know more about that, please check out episode 11, because I have already kind of spoken about all of that. I also just started noticing the almost unconscious or unintentional nature of it all. Like, I just remember noticing whenever I went to church, I would like say the things that they told me to say, and I would sing the songs that they told me to sing. But I noticed that I didn't actually really understand what I was saying, and I didn't actually fully notice the words that were coming out of my mouth and what they meant. I was just like reading or whatever. And sometimes I would be like, what am I actually saying? Like, this actually doesn't resonate with me. Why am I saying this? So that was also part of it. I noticed that the system in place, the structure that they made for us to praise God didn't sit right with me. And that's when I started kind of drifting away from it. To me, humans are so diverse for a reason, and it's part of our beauty. I think a structure telling everyone to do things in this specific way is never gonna sit right with everyone in a population. And I know that it had its like good intentions to start off with, but I think that there are also two sides to every coin. And so as much as there was this beautiful, hopeful side of it that can be used for so much good, I do definitely believe that it was used to control on the other hand. Like I said, as much as there is that bad side, I know that there is the good side, so I'm not going to like preach too much on the bad that I've seen, but it is because of the bad that I got kind of pushed away from it, I just started realizing that just like pretty much everything in life, we all are different, and everything needs to be kind of tailored to your preferences. And I think the exact same thing applies with your relationship to God. It's such a personal thing, and you got to figure it out in your own way. You got to figure out what sits right with you. And that usually happens with trial and error, with finding out different options and seeing what makes sense to you. Because different things are going to make sense for different people based on their purpose in this life and all that. And I actually only started learning this after I forgot all about all that. So, it started off with me kind of being forced into it. And then I had this phase of forgetting it all. And then I kind of re-met God. It was beautiful. I started learning about so many different aspects of it all. And I got perspectives from so many different people with different beliefs. And I started building my own relationship with it, using my own tools. And so now my relationship with God is this kind of culmination of different beliefs from different religions, different messages from different religions, different teachings from different religions, and even teachings from different cultures, not necessarily religions, and the different tools that they use. And not necessarily even cultures, but even just practices used in different parts of the world. There's so much beauty in exploring all of it for yourself and getting to know God on your own. Not just like being told this is what God is, this is what you should expect, and then just sticking to that, But rather taking messages from different people and then sitting in your own silence and seeing what you feel in that silence, because to me that is a pure essence of God. To me, God is not this like person in the sky that we are below and that watches us and our every move and judges us for everything we do. To me, God is this universal spirit that we are all connected to. Our souls are not limited by these physical bodies, and they come from somewhere. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. And the only way that matter can actually exist, the only way anything actually exists in physical form, is by being observed. Something's got to observe life into form. Something had to observe for the Big Bang to happen, for all the planets to start coming into form, into stability, for life to start growing. To me, that's God. This universal consciousness that brings awareness onto life, and we are just an expression of that, and it's so beautiful. That's what's been resonating with me. Ah, there's a little butterfly. Okay, anyway, when I say that everybody's relationship with God is personal and unique and all that, obviously that does include one specific religion. So for me, what sits right isn't associating with one religion. It's kind of taking lessons from all of them and building my own relationship with it, But for some people, sticking with one religion is the perfect fit for them. So the only wrong I see in all of it is forcing beliefs onto others, right? But when you have the autonomy and the sovereignty to be able to choose your own options, to be able to look at all the options and choose your own way of going about it, I don't see a right or wrong. I think that all religions have the same foundational intention: to get closer to God, to be your best self, to reduce any karmic debt in this life so that you can be at peace and not have to reincarnate or go to hell, or, there's always a different way of being taught that, but there's always this base intention that there is in common between all religions. And the different messages in the religions are also usually common. They're just said in different ways because of the different cultures or the different contexts that were behind the start of each religion, No matter what you're learning, getting the different perspectives from totally different people, that is how you truly learn. And that's how you can truly make your own decisions about things. And I think there's so much beauty in autonomy and actually making your own decision about something, looking at all the different perspectives and deciding what actually sits right with you. My point is, I truly don't think that there is a wrong religion to choose from or a wrong combination or anything like that when there is that autonomy, when there is that choice involved. When I say that I don't really see a right or wrong as long as there is autonomy, is that everybody sees their beliefs and believes that what they believe is the absolute truth and the right one, and anyone else is absolutely crazy for believing anything else, And so it's who are we to say that one of them is correct, And actually I saw something the other day that someone was trying to bring an answer to this, I guess. And this guy was saying that one of the ways to try to see which one is actually the correct way is to see the effect that those beliefs bring. So his example, which is obviously kind of a stupid example, but it's a pretty good analogy, is for pasteurizing milk. I think it's in Europe and America. They use two completely different methods. One's with heat and one's with cold. But they both believe that they're doing it the exact right way and the other person is absolutely crazy for doing it that way, right? So the only way to truly decide which one is correct, or maybe even just correct for you, is to look at the effect. So see how the milk actually, which one has the healthier milk, which one is actually better to drink, right? That's why I say, as long as it's not forced onto you, I don't think any of those religions would be bad. But when it is forced, the effect is to control people. The effect is taking away people's sovereignty and their own ability to create a relationship with God, Religions provide so much lessons. It's like just reading a book. You learn so much from it. Religion gives us so much perspective about God and about something bigger than us, which is so beautiful. So in my opinion, the best use of it is to take away that bad side. Oh my gosh, the friggin' construction. I've been aligning a lot more with God's natural creations rather than the man-made structures. And as much as the man-made structures can provide us with different perspectives and help us to gain a bit of insight, I think returning to the source is always the best option. And that's just what resonates with me again. So yeah, some different ways that I have been really connecting with my spiritual side and with God obviously is through prayer, talking to God, even if that's just in your head. But sometimes to me that also means talking to the moon, talking to the plants, basically getting close with Mother Earth, just having gratitude, right? Another way that might not be as common is, I've spoken about this in episode 3, I think, but focusing on my values, basically remembering that the societal norms, societal rules, I loosen my grip on those and I try to remember what my true values actually are. One big example for me is the shaving my legs. Well, not shaving my legs to be specific. I think that's one of the closest ways, or one of the biggest ways that I've gotten closer to God and my spiritual side. Every time I look at my unshaven legs, and obviously I get those thoughts where I'm like, oh, people are judging me. A lot of the time what makes me feel better is I look down at my legs and I'm like, this is how God made women. I am a woman in God's eyes. Like, hello? And that makes me feel so fucking good. And then I just feel so close to God again. And then, that's been one of my biggest ways lately. Another way is just remembering to return to my breath, focus on my breathing whenever I need to, because this breath is literally what gives me life. And it's all thanks to God, the universe, our creator. Not separate from us, but that's another thing. I stopped seeing my relationship with God as this thing that needed to be hierarchical, if that makes sense. Like God is the Lord that is above me and I am below God and need to be praising God and, like this hierarchical thing. It's now no longer about hierarchy, and now it's more about integration. I feel like Christianity was meant to be about how you can become like Christ. But something changed and we all started being taught that we can't be like Christ, that we are below, that we are sinners, and that's not how you become like Christ if you keep believing that. So that's what I mean by integration, is actually working on Christ consciousness, becoming like Christ. I do think it is good to acknowledge that you're not perfect and to be able to see your shadow. That's one thing. Like, as humans, we have this shadow side of ourselves. And to be able to accept that and live with it and learn how to improve that side of ourselves, it's definitely important. But I think the reason that this, identity that we are sinners or whatever is actually so detrimental is because we've also forgotten the definition of sinning. It's not this terrible act that makes us terrible people or whatever. The definition of a sin is actually to forget the point. So it's literally just forgetting, but you can remember again, My relationship with God has improved so much more compared to when I was just forced to learn specific things that were just told to me, and I just had to believe those things without any of my own touch to it, if that makes sense. Another way that I connect with God is, and a lot of people don't really understand this, but with crystals and herbs and stuff, especially crystals. I've actually been getting a lot more in touch with my crystals again. I did lose touch a bit, but I've been making use of them a lot more, and there's just so much evidence showing that crystals literally have the power to change your frequency and heal and cleanse and so many different things. And I mean, I don't really see why it's seen as evil or whatever, because it's natural. It comes from the earth. It comes from God. So to me, it is such a spiritual thing, and it brings me so much closer to God, and it also just helps with my spiritual hygiene. But recently, something that made me want to get so into it again is that I actually learned that crystals are mentioned in the Bible. Apparently, crystals were said to be the foundation of heaven. And I think there was another way that it was mentioned, but hello? Like, if that's not confirmation enough that I should be using them, like, what is? Focus on your own relationship with God and it'll ripple out. As long as you aren't doing something that doesn't resonate with you and you're not forcing others to do things that doesn't resonate with them, it will ripple outwards. All you can do is just share your experiences when you feel the need to, because that's a beautiful way to share your beliefs with others. The most beautiful conversations I've had with other people are just literally them telling me about their experiences and the different lessons that have changed their lives. Not the ones where people are like, you should believe this, you should do this, yours are wrong. So that's just my take on it. So let me know if you have ever explored different religions, different options, different teachings, because I think that is the most beautiful way to make use of religion. I love you all so much, and thanks so much for listening. Don't forget that you are a spiritual being having a human experience, and I guess this is a reminder to embrace this vessel that gives you so much beautiful experiences and use it to do good. You only get to be you once, and we're in this together. It's gonna be okay. Love you guys.
Thank you so much for listening to today's Pillow Talk episode. If you have any thoughts, please comment them down below. I want this to be a conversation, like a sleepover. I love you so much. Bye.